For social media users joining us online and in the audience, please follow us at Nat Urban League on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, and take a moment to update your social media platform using the hashtag NULCONF25. Don't forget to scan the QR code on the screen to download our 2025 National Urban League Conference app, or search the National Urban League in your app store. That will enhance your experience here this week. The app offers easy access to schedules, networking opportunities, and real-time updates. Ladies and gentlemen, please be advised that we are live streaming this event. We kindly ask that you remain mindful throughout the program, and as a courtesy to our speakers and viewers, please take a moment now to silence all mobile devices. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our program will begin momentarily. Please take seats toward the front of the room. Thank you.
Okay, we're ready to go.
Please help me welcome to the stage the President and CEO of the National Urban League, Mark H. Morial.
Good morning, Urban Leaguers. Good morning, Urban Leaguers. I know that each and every one of you did in fact make curfew last night. Because if you were at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, raise your hand if you were at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Raise it high. Let's give the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the city of Cleveland. They were in there partying, and it was just so great to see all of the power and the enthusiasm. And I'm thankful and grateful to the Cleveland Urban League, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame family, and the people of Cleveland for continuing to welcome us. Yesterday afternoon, had an opportunity with about 15 National Urban League trustees to meet with Mayor Bibb, the mayor of Cleveland, in his offices. The purpose of the conversation was for us to hear his vision for a number of things he has done in this city and some things that he has planned. One thing I was impressed with has been his work to confront the problem of homelessness and unhoused people on the streets of Cleveland, and his efforts to rectify, or at least take steps to rectify that situation without an arrest policy. And I think it's a housing first policy. So I lift that up because one of the reasons we attend these meetings is to learn about solutions, about policies, about ideas that confront some of the difficult challenges we face in every community across the nation. The mayor also spent time talking to us about an ambitious vision to redevelop the lakefront here in Cleveland, which has been cut off by way of a transportation infrastructure project. We see this in many communities where these highways that were designed to facilitate people's exit from the city to the suburbs cut important parts of the city off from other parts of the city. So it was exciting to hear him not only talk about that vision, but also to talk about his commitment for inclusion in the economic opportunities that that vision will create here in Cleveland. He's not with us, but give Mayor Bibb and the city of Cleveland a round of applause for their work. And of course, our colleague here in Cleveland, Marsha Maccabee, continues to be a superstar. Her work and the Cleveland Urban League's work in so many areas has made an impact on this community, and her ability to assemble the broad coalition of business and faith and electeds to support her new Equity Institute and her new equity initiative is quite impressive. So I want to not only be thankful for how she's made this conference seamless and smooth, but also how she's leaned into the issues of the time. And the Urban League has now become a platform for continuing change here in Cleveland and Northeastern Ohio. And Urban League colleagues, affiliate CEOs around the country, I know many of you are doing similar work, but it's so important that we learn and we gain perspective from the work that colleagues are doing around the community. So let's give Marsha another round of applause. She may not be in the room, but we're giving her lots of love. Wonderful to see you this morning, and we're excited that you've joined us. We're living in a time when truth is under pressure, when misinformation and disinformation spreads faster than facts, and when journalism, especially journalism that speaks truth to power, is being challenged in unprecedented ways. But in the face of these challenges, there's also great opportunity. Today, we come together not just to talk about elevating Black voices, but we come to act, to learn how to break down barriers that have often kept our stories from being told completely, fully, and authentically, to build new pathways for access, equity, and empowerment in media, to understand the changing landscape of media in this new digital age, and to understand that all of this is about creating avenues for people's voices to be heard in this great democracy. Black voices are not just important, they are essential. They bring clarity, context, and courage to the conversations that shape our world. And when we lift those voices, we don't just change the narrative, we change the prospects for our future. This morning's plenary is a space for hope and for action. You'll gain tools to navigate and challenge the media landscape, insights to amplify your voice. I hope you've been to the Content Creator Suite. Have y'all been to the Content Creator Suite? Who's been to the Content Creator Suite? If you haven't, make sure you stop by. You can do your own thing. You can get some help on if you want to rock your IG page, if you want to roll on TikTok. But if you want to amplify your voice, and you have a voice, because everyone has a voice. And so as we amplify that voice, we try to orchestrate strategies to empower others in our communities to do the same. We share knowledge, we share power. Yesterday, I had a video come on my IG page, and I sent it to my older daughter. She wrote back and said, "Dad, it's AI, it's a fake, you've been duped." I said, "It looks so real. It looks so authentic." The video looked authentic. The voice was authentic. And so in this world, there's also so much prospect for damage, for manipulation, for disinformation. So I hope one thing that the panelists will talk about this morning is how to see through, how to caveat emptor, how to be aware of how to distill fake from real so that we are not duped. You know as well as I know that in the 2016 election, in the 2020 election, and in the 2024 election, there were orchestrated, well-funded, well-strategized, well-thought-out campaigns to discourage black people from voting. I point that out because it's becoming the new normal. In 2016, the Russian Federation ran a campaign. It was a very sophisticated campaign. They created fake personalities that set themselves up on Twitter, created Facebook pages, and they promulgated message after message saying to black people, you shouldn't vote because all politicians are sellouts. They posted thousands and thousands of very nice YouTube videos. When Colin Kaepernick took his knee, they got active. And what they did is they began a campaign on both sides of the issue. To the black community, they sought to stoke protests. To the anti-immigrant community, they sought to stoke resentment against Colin Kaepernick. Indeed, and this is documented in our 2018 State of Black America report, indeed, what they effectively did was they posted more social media posts ×7 than all Americans combined on the Colin Kaepernick issue. This was the Internet Research Agency of the Russian Federation. Where is this documented? It's documented in the German Marshall Plan's Transatlantic Democracy Report of 2017 and 2018. And I point this out because for us to have a serious conversation, we can't have our head in the clouds. We can't just pretend and imagine. We have to understand that media today is not media of yesterday. It's not even media of 15 years ago. It's enabled by very powerful new tools. We have to, number one, learn how to amplify our own voices. Number two, how to advance our own narratives. Number three, we also have to learn how to be aware and protect ourselves against disinformation, misinformation, and efforts at manipulation. So give yourselves a round of applause this morning. So first up is the man we call our CVO. CVO is Chief Volunteer Officer. He's the chairperson of our board. He's the vice chairman of MasterCard. He's been an incredible champion for the Urban League. I want you to know, he's the third person in his extended family to chair the board of the National Urban League. He and his family's commitment goes all the way back to the 1960s. Ladies and gentlemen, Urban Leaguers, please greet our chair, Tim Murphy.
Well, good morning, everyone, and it's really good to be with you again. Mark, thank you for that very generous introduction. Before I begin, I really want to give a quick shout out to the incredibly exciting activations which are happening in the Urban League Now Experience Center and Lounge, which is really right across the hall. Do check that out, and when you're there, let me offer a shameless plug for our MasterCard booth, where you can demo our inclusive growth score. Now, what is that? As a payment network, we have access to a vast amount of information in an anonymized way, and we're using that data to help give local decision makers, so think about this if you're an affiliate leader, if you're a business leader, information about how, down to the zip code level in our cities, the economy is flourishing or not. And the inclusive growth score can give decision makers at a local level a lot of information that they can help take and drive inclusive growth in their economy. So have a look at it. It's interactive. There's a team of MasterCard colleagues there who can work with you through it, and they'll show you your own community and how your community is performing. So thank you very much for that. Let me now turn to this morning's theme, which is all about making your voice heard. The panel will focus on media. Let me take another aspect of making your voice heard. So just a few moments on a topic where each and every one of you in this room can have real impact. This week and this year have offered a very powerful reminder of the founding principle of the Urban League movement, which is economic empowerment. From its earliest days to our modern history, the Urban League has led a coordinated effort to marshal the U.S. economy in the cause of civil rights. And that starts, obviously, with corporate America. Because when guided by purpose, free enterprise is a powerful engine of inclusion. And an equal, inclusive economy is a growing economy, an economy of vast opportunity. This is real, it's true, it really can't be denied. But it goes without saying that the environment we're in today, legally, politically, socially, is more complex and challenging than ever. Mark talked about this yesterday in the State of the Urban League address and highlighted the unprecedented attacks on corporate inclusion programs, and he did so in a very powerful way. Now, many of us in the corporate space, in light of this environment, have had to make adjustments. Some people, for sure, some companies have stepped back. There's no denying it. But I want to suggest to you that a significant number, a substantial number of committed companies have sought instead to balance risk and adapt to policy changes, but to stay true to their values and to the people that brought them to this work in the first place. Situation's not perfect, I'm not suggesting that, but there are people continuing to work hard to do the work. Has it been easy? It is not. Has the response been perfect? It has not. It rarely is when the stakes are this high. But the work does continue in many companies around the country. And as a company leader and as a board member, as a believer in the promise of capitalism, I've seen it. We've not stopped believing in the power and the business value of equity and inclusion. And in many cases, we've done our level best to sustain our principles and our longstanding commitments to our teams to make sure that we give equal opportunity for all. It means that some people have to reimagine their work to meet the moment. Leaders need to make hard and strategic choices to continue to do what's right and to do it with transparency and with heart. And it's an evolution that gives us another reminder, really this one from Ecclesiastes, to every thing there is a season. In some seasons, the role of the leader is to protect and to preserve, and I'd argue to you that's where we are today. What we're preserving is the impact of this work. Investment in underserved communities, support for entrepreneurs and small business, programs that connect people to opportunity are always worth fighting for. And I firmly believe that that's exactly what many leaders are working to do right now. They're being held to account, rightfully and in a large part by the media. It's another essential American tradition, and it couldn't be more fitting topic for this morning. But in other instances, they're being held to account by people just like you. And here's another place to use your voice. Many of you are employees of America's great companies. Your presence here today means that you continue to show up, to do the work, to make the impact. It's one of the most important ways that you can use your voice, and I encourage you to think about today's programming. Keep that in mind as you're working through the course of our morning session. I look forward to the conversation ahead. I look forward to learning, and once again, thank you all for your commitment to the National Urban League.
Okay, let's get this show on the road. You ready? You all ready? So today's moderator, Alencia Johnson, you know y'all, she's an urban leaguer. And she's author of a brand new book called Flip the Tables. She's a thought leader, a cultural critic, and she's worked on a number of presidential campaigns. Barack Obama, Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris. She's got a distinguished career, Planned Parenthood, Geico, She's a sought-after thought leader. She's a cultural critic. She's a commentator on many, many broadcast networks. She's going to lead this discussion today. We've got a power-packed panel. We want to have an energized conversation. We don't want to let anything we want it all to come out, because that's what we're here for a dynamic conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to welcome our moderator this morning. Put your hands together for an Urban League welcome for Alencia Johnson.
Good morning, Urban League. Good morning. I know y'all had a good late night last night. Okay. Welcome to Plenary 2, Breaking the Silence, Mastering Media and Making Your Voice Heard. We are so excited to have you all here with us today in what will be an electrifying discussion with an amazing panel. At a time when meaningful conversations about issues that matter are more crucial than ever, it's all the more important to understand the nuances of mass media and how to ensure that a spectrum of voices and perspectives come through. This session is dedicated to lifting the barriers to media access and sharing the skills to empower anyone to be compelling and persuasive in that space. So today, I am so thrilled to be moderating this conversation with a panel of media experts and professionals and experienced communicators that I look up to, who share the art of reaching a broad audience with your authentic voice. First up, we are honored to have with us award-winning journalist and icon and president of Ed Gordon Media, Ed Gordon. Ed is known for his compelling interviews with leading figures in politics, entertainment, and sports. And he serves as the president of Ed Gordon Media, a dynamic production company offering a range of media services. He contributes to CBS News and is a special correspondent for the BET CBS News series America in Black. He is also the best-selling author of Conversations in Black. Please give it up for Ed Gordon. Next up, we have the Reverend Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis, Jr., President and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the Black Press of America. Dr. Chavis is a lifelong activist, entrepreneur, global business leader, educator, chemist, civil rights leader, NAACP life member, syndicated columnist, a reverend, a theologian, and an author. He also serves on the board of the National Association of Equal Opportunity in Higher Education. Give it up for Dr. Chavis. Next, we have Ms. Valisha Butterfield. She is the founder of Seed Media and Global State of Women. Valisha currently serves as the honorary chair of the Grammys Black Music Collective, is a member of the Grammys Television Committee, and a board trustee of her distinguished alma mater, Clark Atlanta. Give it up for Valisha. We have Ms. Rachel Nordlinger, who is a leading crisis management and communications expert. She is the first Black woman founding equity partner of a global strategy firm, y'all give it up, at Axiom. And she is one of the leading communicators, crisis managers, and brand strategists in the country. She has been celebrated for her expertise in shaping narratives for high-profile leaders and companies, with an unparalleled reputation for her ability to communicate the tenor of the streets to the decision makers and the C-suites. Next up, point of personal privilege, my soror, Ms. April Ryan, who is the DC Bureau Chief and Senior White House Correspondent for Black Press USA. I think that applause is because we've seen her work. Where she is now the longest serving Black member of the Press Corps with more than 28 years under her belt. April is also an MSNBC political analyst, author, best-selling author, speaker, and 2021 nominee for the NAACP Image Award for Social Justice Impact. And last, but certainly not least, please give it up for Eugene Daniels, who is now MSNBC senior White House correspondent, senior Washington correspondent, and host of MSNBC's show, The Weekend. Let's give it up for this amazing panel. Okay, so I want to just jump in really quickly, and we got 40 minutes, so we're going to get a lot in with all of these personalities, and I love it. But why is it so critical to ensure that there is a spectrum of voices, particularly Black voices, in today's media landscape with everything that's happening? And what impact does this have on the public perception of what's happening in society as well as policy? You want to go first, April?
Yeah, I think so. Let me say this. I've covered the White House for 28 years, and my first president was William Jefferson Clinton. And I did a book, and I asked him, does race play in your decision making? Race is on the table with every president, but guess what? You don't know about it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm working with Black Press USA with Dr. Ben Chavis, because a lot of the mainstream media, they don't focus in on issues that pertain to us. We are a community with the highest numbers of negatives in almost every category. You said facts, it's true. And mainstream media is not covering it. Mainstream media is not covering it unless there's a crescendo moment. Katrina, Trayvon Martin, Target. You know, how many of you know, and I was joking with the Reverend Dr. Mark Moriel backstage a minute ago, but how many of you know what our buying power is? Almost $2 trillion. Do you realize what the number one item we purchase is? Hello? This is interactive. Do you know? Mark Moriel told me grits. Grits, Grits. It's so powerful, Jill Scott sings about it in one of her songs. Grits, remember that? The number two is hair products. Eugene has brought all the hair products in the nation.
Curls are juicy.
Yes, they are. Sacred and Taraji. I'm telling you. But no, seriously, if we don't know about us, why are they supposed to know? So that's one of the reasons why we are in the room where it happens. In the room where it happens, right, Dr. Chavis?
Absolutely.
That's right. Because they don't know, but we know. And we put it on the table for you. And I want to salute Dr. Chavis. I want to salute everybody on this panel, to include Eugene Daniels, who was the first Black queer president of the White House Correspondents Association in its 111 years. I beat him down, but I love him. No, because this is like a brother and sister thing, because iron sharpens iron, guys. And this guy over here, Ed Gordon, he's been, since OJ. He was the first one to get an interview with OJ.
Yeah.
Because of Community, the late, great Johnny Cochran. So let me tell you something. Don't poo-poo on Black media.
Right.
We are here for you. We know your struggles. We are part of you. So when you're lifting up all those others, you need to come around and look at us.
Yeah.
Seriously, because we got your back.
Go ahead, Dr. Davis.
The phenomenal April Round. So I'm just going to add, Ed and I saw the OGs up here. And our struggle today has to be intergenerational.
Right.
And we're talking about Black-owned media, but we're also talking about media that's not owned by Black people. And we have to be everywhere, not just at one place.
That's right.
I'm pleased to report to you that this year, 2025, marks the 198th year of the Black Press of America. 198 years. 2027 will be our 200th anniversary. But we have to learn from the past, not necessarily repeat the past. And I think that what faces the National Urban League, what faces the NAACP, what faces the National Action Network is something that April said, listen, our community, there are 50 million African Americans that spend almost $2 trillion in this economy. But what is the reinvestment in our community? And what does media say about it? So listen, I'm gonna be quiet because I know Felicia has some data to share with us. We have to not only get the data, but analyze the data.
Yeah.
You know, we need to figure out a pathway forward, even while Donald Trump is sitting president. Because right now, I don't think people really realize how tough things are gonna get. People not getting Medicaid. Our young children not going to school hungry. I mean, sisters and brothers not having affordable health care. I mean, the list is long. The Department of Education has been eliminated.
Yeah.
Are we gonna become a country of ignorance or a nation of intelligence? And so to me, artificial intelligence is great, but I think we have some artificial ignorance.
Ooh. Wow.
Preach.
Preach.
Preach. That's a word.
But Dr. Chavis, you made a good point. You two are the OGs, since you said it. I do.
Well, you know, we.
It is what it is.
And we are so grateful for the wisdom. I want to ask, though, because as with all of this experience, you all have seen a significant amount of barriers in getting information to our communities. And yes, there is an abundance of technology and AI, but like I say to people all the time, our ancestors and the people before us actually knew how to overcome a lot of these barriers, and we can learn a lot. So I would love to hear from you all. Both of you mentioned, and you too, April, but y'all mentioned working during several administrations, several movements. What were some of the barriers then are very similar now, and how can we penetrate through those to get to more people?
I think April touched on it. The idea that for too long, Black press has not been taken seriously by anyone, including us. I'll give you an example. When I worked at BET, it was a different time. You didn't have everybody who had a phone. So we at BET were really the voice of Black America. But when I moved to CBS, it was as if all of a sudden Black folks saw me differently, like, oh, you done made it now. You off the plantation, you with the white folk.
You white famous.
You're white famous now. But the reality is we did far greater shows on BET than I ever did on CBS. Tiffany Cross used to work for us. We did. Tiffany Cross used to work for me at BET, and she said, Ed, I'm so upset because this is when she was on CNN. She said, I look at the programs we do on CNN, and I think about what we produced on BET. And when you juxtapose them, there was no comparison. Mm-hmm. To your point, we spoke to the community. We knew what we needed to hear. When you work at a white organization, well, we don't know that we should say that. You've got to fight to get your point of view on. At BET, they were like, okay, you know, I mean, we had some other problems at BET, but that's all. I love them anyway. But I just want people to understand the importance of media. Very quickly, I'll give you a story. If you think about, if I say, hey, what's a romantic evening? You'll say candlelight, soft music, maybe some Luther in the background, roses, dinner. You know, we all can kind of fantasize what that is. And I'll say, well, did you see your parents do that? And most of us would go, well, no, not really. You learned what was romantic from a movie that you saw. Yeah. Someone told you what romance was. You look at style. Most of us emulate what a designer tells you to wear for this year or what a celebrity wears this year. So media shapes you in far greater ways. And lastly, I'll say, it also shapes your mind. It tells you what is good and what isn't. It tells you what is important and what isn't. And I will say this finally as an OG. With all due respect to everybody who has a phone and a platform and is going from their basement or outside or whatever, it does not make you a journalist.
That's right.
And it does not mean that you are giving credible, dynamic information. And so I would just say be a discerning audience when you follow people. I'm not saying don't follow them. Follow whomever you want. But you have to think about who is the sender as a receiver. And not everybody even thinks to check to see if this is right.
Preach,
So just
OG.
think about it.
Preach, OG. Preach.
Yes.
You said some really
So, you know, I think Ed is right on point. I think that I've seen a lot. I was the youngest person on Dr. King's staff. I'm telling how old I am, in the 1960s. And I saw how the movement used the media for the purpose of raising the consciousness of our people.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Nixon gets elected after Dr. King's assassination. There's a repression on the movement. But at the same time, we start getting black elected officials. At the same time, the Urban League starts to grow. The NAACP rebounds. SCLC kind of, you know, stays because the loss of Dr. King was tremendous. And who would fill those shoes? So now you fast forward to now. And incidentally, I agree about the impact of the media because most young people today, I guess some of y'all in here, they don't know me from the NAACP, they don't know me from SCLC or the director of the Million Man March. They know me from the movie Belly. You know, I was the minister in Belly. And so I have a hip hop connection. You know, I got street cred because of Belly. But the final point is, look, all of us up here collectively represent the struggle of our people for freedom, justice, and equality.
Yeah.
We need our own voices in places where we own, but we need our own voices also in places that we don't own. We live in a world. When I organized the Million Man March in 1995, we didn't have no social media. And people didn't believe you could get 1 million black men to come to Washington. And we did it. You know how we did it? By networking in our community.
That's right.
We underestimate our value of the Urban League working with the NAACP, the NAACP working with the National Action Network, working with new organizations like what Felicia has built. And of course, listen, the black press would not be what it is today without an icon like April Ryan. She's a gift. She's an icon.
Yeah.
And so I just want to, I know time is very important and other panelists need to speak.
But
We have to, that's right, right. But with a capital B. We have to shape the future.
That's right. That's
We don't wait for the future to shape us.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what this conference is about. That's what this panel is about. How do we use media to shape a better future
That's right.
for our people and for the whole world?
Yeah. Both of you brought up the shaping of our people. Ed, you spoke on something that I think Felicia probably perked up to because I was thinking about it when you were talking about TV, film, music, how that's shaping us and culture shapes us. And I want to actually ask you, Felicia and Rachel, about shaping narratives, yes, through traditional journalism, news media, but very importantly, through entertainment, right? And using the levers that already engage folks to reach people where they are, and why that's so important, particularly in movement work and movement building work, because both of you do that extremely well behind the scenes, and there's a strategy to that in discipline.
Thank you. Well, first, it's just such an honor to be here and on this panel. And Dr. Ben gave me my first job in media over 20 years ago, and I'm forever thankful.
About 30 years ago.
Was it 30 years ago? Details.
When she was 5.
When I was 5. But it's true, right? And when I think about bridging the gap, the intergenerational gap, right? I can't thank you enough, the National Urban League and the young professionals for being in this room and doing just that. And a few things, Alencia, to your point are, one is I'm such a data person because I think we have to also really understand the facts. And there's kind of a myth out there that, if we just perform as a community, right? If we deliver as a community, if we have a value proposition, then we can unlock the advertising dollars. That is not true. And although I'm building a business currently, I've spent many years, more than 30 now, working for companies at really senior levels, like working for Google, like working for the Grammys as their president, and working for a lot of different organizations and media. And I've been on the other side of the table. And what I can tell you is this, and the numbers support it: the film and TV industry loses $10 billion a year by not betting on us, and they don't care, right? So we can give the value proposition, Ed, to your point. We can share all the data that supports why betting on black directors, betting on black filmmakers makes sense, and yet still they are willing to take a $10 billion annual loss to not do that. These are facts. Another data point is, to Dr. Ben's point, there's a $76 billion advertising budget annually, and we as a Black community get 1%. One of the $76 billion annual budget. And so when you crunch the data, you have to understand there's a different game being played. And I think sometimes we feel like we can compete when the stack is against us because they just do not want us in that space. And it's because of representation, Alencia, exactly to your point. So when I think about movement building, if you had asked me that question 5 years ago, I would have said, we just have to work smarter. The layer to that, I would say, is in community. Right, I believe that there's power in the collective ability to raise capital, invest in each other, and recirculate those dollars to make sure that not only are we producing content, building businesses, but those that can be sustained. The last point I'll make is that in the last 3 months, we as Black women have lost 250,000 jobs. Month over month, you can look at the data. In April alone, we as Black women lost 104,000 United States jobs. And so we are currently in a crisis. It's a state of emergency, and no one is ringing the alarm because we're not controlling the media. And so that's one last point. I think that we have to take ownership and take more authority around what's currently happening right now, because in this administration, to April's point, it's just going to continue to decline. And then at the end of this 4-year cycle, we're going to have to take 40 years to reset it.
Ooh, amen goes right there. Good morning, and thank you, NUL, for convening us. If I was in a foxhole, which we are, I would want to be with these 6 humans right here because these are truth tellers. So look, I have dedicated my entire career to media activism, shaping the narratives and telling the stories about the needs and values of us. And I have always seen journalism as a mirror. It's a reflection of society and how we understand it. But when you look in the mirror and it's only a sliver of humanity, it lends itself to erasure. And you know, when you have something like yesterday, when the story was that the cop that killed Breonna Taylor gets 1 day. 1 day. But the New York Times covers it, but we can't read it because it's in a paywall.
Right.
Something is happening systematically to make sure that our news and our values are not being heard. And so, you know, we are in a moment. We're in a moment where we have to galvanize and organize and coalition build so that we can support the NNPA, so we can support April, with whom I've worked all 28 years. She has been there 28 years fighting for us. And yes, she fights. She fights hard. She fights. She fights. So the reality is, algorithmically, we are being suppressed. When you look at how we're consuming our news these days, it's digital, it's through social media, but it's suppressive. And until we can take back what is ours and support it economically, we are going to continue to be erased. And so, look, we're all here because we strongly believe in the power of our words and the power of storytelling and telling our narratives. And so we are going to continue to fight and do so every day.
Preach, preach, preach.
Sounds like, give it up for Rachel and Felicia. Sounds like we all need to start investing in Black media in the ways that we can, right? If you are paying to subscribe to mainstream media, you should also invest in Black media and also use them as some of your first news sources.
So Lindsay, first,
go ahead.
if you tell people to invest, one of the first easiest ways you can, you got your phone with you, follow Rachel, follow April, follow Dr. Chavis, follow Black Press USA, follow Ed, follow Eugene, follow Ms. Butterfield, who's been doing the daggone thing. Guys, pull out your, I'm serious. You think I'm just, pull your phones out. All right, start following, thank you. The front row is awake. I know y'all partied last night. But seriously, and you start following our platforms and investing in what we do. That's what I'm saying. So seriously, start following us. I'm ADR 1600 on Instagram, on the gram, okay? All right, so in Black Press USA, I shouldn't be talking, but Black Press USA, that's how you start and follow us. Rachel's got everything going on. She's got tentacles everywhere. Guys, you need to follow us. Eugene is on TV every weekend, on the weekend.
Yeah. And that's how, and following you on, that's how you'll be able to amplify voices, Black journalists that give the perspective that we need for our communities, which brings me to you, Eugene, and you have this show on a mainstream network. But you show up as your,
authentic self.
As your authentic self, and you always make sure to talk about the stories through a lens that speaks to our community. Can you talk about that balance and responsibility and how you navigate that, which will also be helpful for so many people here who are, not every person in here works for a Black organization, right? You have to be able to continue to center our experiences in the spaces that you're in.
I think of it as a responsibility and not a balance, because at the end of the day, every show I do, every time I do a hit, people are like, how do you speak to the regular person, right? As a reporter in Washington, D.C., you're always talking about the regular person. And I'm like, well, one, I see myself as a regular person, but most importantly, I have family members, right? My family lives in Bucksport, South Carolina. None of you have heard of it, but that's all right. And so I'm constantly talking to people who are dealing with the issues, right? On my husband's side of the family and my side of the family, everybody is dealing with, what do these Medicaid cuts actually mean, right? I was talking to my mom a couple weeks ago, and she was like, do you think your grandmother's gonna be okay with her Medicaid, right? Those are the kinds of things that are happening. And so the way that I approach it, the work, is about the impact, right? When we started the show, when me and Jackie and Jonathan Capehart started talking about what are the kind of issues that we wanted to deal with, for me, it always comes down to impact, right? There are all these policies and politics that happen, and those things are absolutely important, right? I worked at Politico, I did playbook, I understand how important the backroom conversation is, but at the end of the day, if we cannot explain on our show, on other people's shows, in an article from April on her show, The Tea with April Ryan on Substack. Thank you for that plug. If we can't explain the impact, then what are we doing? Why are we there, right? It is very difficult as Black people to get into the rooms that everyone on this table has been very fortunate enough to get into.
Preach.
And for me, it's like, if I'm in there, I have to bring everything, right? And, sometimes people get into the room and then they start to try to mold to what everybody else is. But everybody else is molded. Those ideas, the way to operate, that is handled. And so something that my mom always said when we were kids was, you belong in every single room you find yourself in. And that meant to bring everything to the room, right? That meant that you were the only person in that room that can say the thing that you are thinking. You're the only person that can bring the background that you have. And other people cannot do it. It does not matter. And so, when we're in those spaces and we're having those conversations, I don't even feel a burden to be like, well, what about Black people? Because it just is natural to all of us, right? I think the thing that people fail to understand sometimes about the Black community is we're always thinking about each other, right? We're always thinking about how do we protect and defend each other? How do we uplift each other? And so it comes natural, and to the authenticity part of it, I don't know another way. It's funny, during COVID, after my hair started growing because I couldn't go to the barber anymore. And I was like, wait a second, this is interesting. What is happening up here? And, people were like, are you going to cut your hair now because we're all back in the office? I was like, what the hell would I do that for? It's my head. And then the same thing with nail polish or how I wear my clothes. It wasn't a protest or like me trying to get attention. It is like, that's what I want to do. Yeah. And if I can't be myself in spaces, I don't want to be in those spaces. There are plenty of other spaces. Right. And I say especially to the young people, find jobs. I'm a reporter, so when I look for an organization to go work for, I look for places that are going to take my full self, right? Every place is going to be like, we want you to report, or we want you to do this, but who's going to allow you to be yourself? Because when you're not trying to be someone else, it unlocks it unlocks so much space in your brain to do the work, right? When I came out of the closet at 27 years old, I had so much more space in my room, in my brain, to do the work. to be a better journalist, to be a better friend, to be a better, a brother. And I to all of you, find that authenticity, because especially nowadays, people can smell BS. And so if you're someone who wants to be in media, someone who wants to either have my job or one of their jobs, people want to see people that feel real, right? And that feel like, oh, that's like my cousin. You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes on our show we get a little, especially around 8:30, we get a little slap happy. And so my mom's texting, she's like, my mom's like, chill. But it is, what we hear from the viewers is that it feels like they're at a table having a conversation with friends. And I think that is the way that the media operates better, is people feeling like they're a part of the conversation, not on the table, but at the table. And I think that's really important for all of us to focus on.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just want to make one point if I can, and that is distraction. I think it's important for us to understand. So my career has been very atypical. I didn't work in local markets. I literally worked in Detroit for a little bit, and then I went to BET, and from there I went to other networks. But the world we live in today has changed. The importance of media, the importance of news is declining rapidly. And so I tell all of us, don't run the distraction to our detriment. And by that I mean, I laugh, because this is generational. I have covered politics from the White House to overseas conflicts, and I've covered entertainment, and I appreciate it. I always had both doors to go in. But right now, if most of our time is spent on talking about whether Beyonce's horse made it down, a car made it down from the sky.
And it did, thank God.
But wait a minute, and her pants fell down. Her pants fell down too.
If we spend more time with that than we are this bill that was pushed through by Trump, then that's problematic for us. If we spend more time complaining about white networks not having enough black people on, but we don't get on black networks for not having any black news on, that's problematic for us.
Yeah.
And so I just say to all of us, please don't be distracted by a lot that is going on. The media is omnipresent, but it also is so, so, so powerful. And if they can get you to look over here instead of over here, they're going to push through a whole lot more legislation.
I just want to add to that as you all jump in on this distraction piece. How do you make sure folks don't get distracted, as well as pushing through this misinformation and disinformation that is penetrating our communities?
I think these lawmakers are depending on you being distracted. I talked to a lot of them, and when this bill was getting pushed through, because it was, they were reading the bill and going through the bill at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
What y'all doing sleeping, right? Because you should. Yeah. And so and then when you wake up, you're not looking to go see what Congress did. And so that's our job, right? To fill those holes. And so they're depending on folks being distracted, and especially the folks that are going to be impacted the most, because they understand and know that you are worried about the price of eggs, you're worried about the price of gas. How do you make sure that your kids have what they need when you get home?
Street.
Right? You're worried about all of those things, and so you don't have the space in your head to focus on and to delve into this 900-page bill, right? And I think, when you're talking about the fighting the misinformation, disinformation, that's where we come in. And I don't just mean like mainstream media, I mean like actual journalists. To Ed's point earlier, everyone with a camera is not a journalist, and that's all right. That's fine. You know what I mean? I think the social media's democratization of people being able to talk to each other and about each other is great. Some of that is really good. Some of them need to chill, but a lot of that is great. But at the end of the day, you have to find sources that actually give you information that you can verify, right? Everybody who Googles is not a reporter, right? Like, we are trained in the art of journalism. It's not just talking to people. That is a part of it.
More than one person.
Exactly.
More than one person.
Felicia, you wanted to jump in on this.
I was just going to build on Ed's point and say that if you look across every social media and digital platform today, right, we're talking YouTube, Meta, X, TikTok, we are the number one consumer and user on every single platform, like full stop. right? We are the highest consumers as Black people. But yet, if you look at all of these companies, right, not a single CEO is Black, nor their direct leadership team. You can't find a single Black direct C-suite reporting line to that CEO. And then if you look at the board composition, less than 1%. And so with that in mind, right, when I think about AI, and it's here, yes, right? There's no way to put that genie back in the bottle. And despite all of the inequities and environmental justice concerns and everything that's happening, instead of leveraging AI to, search for things like we would a Google search, right? Let's start using it to load up that 60-page document and give us the top line bullet points, right? That's how we can actually use it and leverage it to our advantage. When there's a new bill coming out and because we have to go to work and we don't have time to comb through every page, let's start leveraging AI, right, to crunch that data for us and give us the top line points. Another example is if you know someone that has lost their job or at risk of losing their job, AI can help you build a business plan now in 5 minutes. And so to me, I'm like, okay, if AI is here, and it's here to stay, and it's a free platform for most, then let's leverage it to build our businesses, to create strategic plans, to do our media planning and cut our time in half so that we can be more productive, because the distractions are designed to wear us out. Yeah. Right? It's the exhaustion that they're banking on so that we can continue to lose ground. And so I think we can leverage those platforms to actually gain momentum and gain traction, because if not, we're just going to continue to be distracted. And sadly, that's the game that they want to play.
So I want to say something there, because that's actually, the AI piece is actually important in this moment. We are always behind the curve when someone puts something out. Educationally, it's like, what is it, the book that I have at home, The Miseducation of the Negro? We have to be, I have 2 of the copies of that book because it's so important. I want my children to read it. We have to be on top of the curve because we're being left behind already. We're the ones being laid off in a lot of instances in these federal workforce or government workforce job layoffs. If you keep your job for what you know, it's not who gets you in the door anymore, it's what you know and how valuable you are. This AI thing works in journalism. It is not antichrist. It is amazing. It cuts your work in half. You can find, finding data. And that's another thing going to this DEI thing. Anti-DEI is anti-data. They don't want you to know the data so you can sue them. That's the part. Yeah. So learn the data, be informed, be on top of the curve, because this society right now is not about you. They're anti-woke and anti-DEI. And in order for you to sustain in this moment, you have to know you got to play the game better than they do. Yeah. Point blank. And I want to thank all our allies for being in here. Take this information and make it work for the people of color who are working for you in your community.
Go ahead, Rachel.
I was just going to add, many folks don't even know what the difference between misinformation and disinformation is. Yep. And disinformation is a very calculated, highly funded strategy to suppress us. And we have, unfortunately, really, really fallen for it in real time. And I think it ultimately, look, I'm in the business of dissecting and deconstructing smoke and mirrors. It has all become smoke and mirrors with the internet. And we're in a moment where I think it goes back to what we were just talking about earlier, which is ownership. I work in the media capital of the world. Do you know there is not one Black-owned radio station in New York City? Zero. And so how can we have our stories told if we have absolutely zero ownership? And so to combat misinformation and disinformation, both harmful, by the way, we have got to support the ownership of our stories.
Yes. In New York City, we have 5 Black-owned newspapers that print every week to try to get their news out. What Rachel's saying is true. And I just want to go back to what Ed said about distraction. Okay, how do we handle that? I would say that we respond to distraction by creating our own attraction. That's right. What are we attracted to? Boom. I'm attracted to Black excellence. I'm attracted to those success stories that nobody else would cover. I'm in the 6th season of on PBS, The Chambers Chronicles. Now, I know that just this week they cut the funding for PBS and NPR. Why? Because those networks give you an alternative view of what is going on. They focus on the attraction versus the distraction. And so I think that I'm glad this is being live streamed, because there are millions of brothers and sisters out there who need to hear this information and who need to act upon it. I think one of the things that we do sometimes when we hear what our problems are and we hear sometimes what are the solutions to the problems, we don't move. You know, C.T. Vivian said a movement is people moving.
That's right.
You know, we can't stand still in this moment. We ought to be preparing for 2026 right now. I get pissed off because the Democratic Party and others, they wait till the last minute
They sure do.
to try to get out our vote.
Sure.
You know, they take our vote for granted. You know, they got to stop that.
Right.
You know, there are millions of people of goodwill in America who didn't vote at all.
Yeah.
And that's why we wound up with what we have today. Elections have consequences. The Supreme Court of the United States is an embarrassment to the world.
Yeah.
The White House is an embarrassment to the world. And so we can't be attracted to these embarrassments or distracted.
Yeah.
Create our own power, own our own media, do the networking, use that data. And I guarantee you, and let me say this about young people. I know a lot of people play hate on young people today, but the future is in the hands of our young people.
That's right.
And I think the black youth in particular today are the most talented, the most gifted, the most potentially successful generation. That's why it's so much heavy weight on them. They don't want them to succeed. They don't want them to pass the third grade reading test. They don't want them to even get out of pre-K. So we got to work. You know, there's a war on our community.
Yeah.
This is it is a crisis. Yep. And the thing is, I want to end on a positive. Yes. This is not insurmountable. This is not something that we have to throw our hands up and raise the flag. No, this is time for our togetherness. Mm-hmm. This is time for our attraction to one another and celebrate our excellence, even in a time of great difficulty.
Listen. And you get the wisdom from the OG. That's when I wrap up what I'm asking. We do have a microphone and we have time for a few questions. And I do mean questions, because I know sometimes we like to give a whole monologue, but we will love your questions. The microphone is over here if you all want to line up. But one thing I do want to pull out this thread through that all of you all are talking about is compelling storytelling that has information about the impact of these issues, particularly for us. And you mentioned the Democratic Party. I got triggered because I worked on a lot of campaigns. Felicia and I have worked on campaigns together, and I get so frustrated. But what I realized, and what I'll share with you all, and Felicia knows this too, and actually everybody on the stage knows this too, I worked for President Barack Obama, who's one of the most amazing speakers ever. And yet, some of the people and communities that folks trusted the most were everyday folks in our communities. Business owners, church leaders. And so I share that in do not underestimate the power of your voice to influence the community around you. I love listening to President Obama and Michelle Obama. I love listening to all the CBC members, all the entertainers we would book on things, but it was that beauty salon owner that was in the city for 25 years that the community actually paid attention to and said, I'm gonna go out and vote. So I share that with you all to not underestimate the power of your position and your voice in the community.
And the beauty shop is where you find out what's the topic of conversation in the community. The barber shop, the beauty shop, who you going to vote for, why you don't want to vote for them or whatever. That, yeah, you're absolutely.
That's right. Go ahead.
Is it on?
Yep.
Hi. My name is Alonzo Buchanan Jr., and I'm a national media consultant. I had the pleasure of being a consultant on one of the national presidential campaigns during the last election.
Amazing.
Which gave me a different perspective about a lot of different things, even though I kind of felt that way about some things, but I really got it validated at that time. One of the things I said as I was standing there, I was always been at the right place at the right time. So this is the time for me to say what I got to say to everybody here.
Do you have
the question
sorry. The question, please. Thank you, because we got a line.
The question is, and I asked this of a number of people yesterday, what is our national media strategy for Black America? What is our national strategy?
Yeah.
We got all, you guys, what is our national strategy? We need a national strategy. When I asked that question to a couple of people, couldn't get an answer to that. I know what my national strategy is, but what is ours?
Thank you.
So I don't know that we can look at it like that. I don't think that we as a people are such, we say in one sentence, we're not a monolith. And in another sentence, we want to be a monolith.
Right.
And I always say, we're not a monolith, but there is usually general consensus. So you go to black people's house on Thanksgiving, if I break out a pumpkin pie, it's a problem for a lot of people. So I say this. Media is a business at the end of the day. And so to assume that we're all going to walk in lockstep is the wrong way to take it. I think there are a myriad of voices on this panel. We would not agree on everything. I argue with some of my friends about the Housewives franchise. We want it both ways. I've never watched one, but that's my personal preference. I can't really jump on you if a lot of y'all been watching it. So I think what we have to do is really look at the idea of how do we monetize media and how do we make it be an authentic voice for all of us.
Yeah.
And that can be, we can argue that, but yes. And I think what you've seen is the idea that each one of us is attempting to do that in our own way.
Yeah. But going to Ed's point, as a journalist, I mean, you have to look at the moment and we're not a monolith. But the problem is right now there's so many things coming at you, and Rachel, you know this, like a fire hose, and you can't catch everything at one time. So Cleveland may have a different issue than Baltimore, than Detroit, than New York. I talked to David Patterson, the former governor of the state of New York. I said, what is it, what's the need right now? He said one of his major issues was transportation. I was shocked. One of the major, for New York. So it depends on the region. It depends on what's happening. I mean, think about this. There's some places in Mississippi, places in Detroit still don't have good water, right? So it's not just one issue fits all. Flint, Michigan still doesn't have a good infrastructure for water. So you cannot just say, we can say overall broad brush economics, and then there are the subgroups of the economics. So you cannot just say that. But in this moment, and since were brought here to this nation, okay, we again still have the highest numbers of negatives in every category. What category is your category that's number one?
Yeah.
I think just quickly. Yep. I think that, I do strategy for a living. And to come up with the strategy, you have to decompartmentalize and break apart the issue into various components so that you can actually come up with a strategy. And I think everyone on this panel has alluded to different things that are an important part of that. How many of us even know that in this very city where we are at this moment, the millions of dollars that this mayor has gotten to reinvest, he's rebuilding and totally redeveloping the waterfront. But we do not know that narrative because we do not have investments in the platforms that will actually allow us to know this across the entire country. So to come up with a strategy, I think we have to first start really kind of dissecting and taking apart the different things that are oppressing us.
Yeah, I would just say, I know this one question, but I hate to do short phrases, but I'm going to say it like this. For a national media strategy, the first thing we need to do is stay black, buy black, and don't apologize for being black.
Preach, preach, preach.
That's right. My sister.
Urban League of Rochester. Just want to lift, first of all, that there is an incredible radio station in New York State, in Rochester, New York, WDKX, 51 years, Black-owned by the Langston family. So just wanted to lift that. Also, yes, it's powerful. But also wanted to ask the panel, because April, you lifted the importance of AI. And how were you all using your personal platforms to educate on our community? We all know how important it is that we are not continually left behind. How are you using your platform and also encouraging your counterparts, your partners, your co-conspirators in this work to use your platform to educate our community?
My personal platform, I don't like getting personal, but I do. I lift up Black Press USA a lot. Rachel may post something. Matter of fact, I called Rachel the other week to say, sis, because I watch what everyone does. He hadn't even read something that I sent him, a congratulatory. We were coming down the escalator. I said, did you read my comment to support you? He said, I go on social and I leave it alone. Because for many of us, social is a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. We can be what you see on TV, but there's so much anger sometimes. But I lift up goodness. On my personal platform, and I'm not getting paid for this, I do something called Black Business Mondays. Every Monday, because of this boycott of Target, I'm not necessarily going to say boycott anything, but I'm going to say this is where you can go. These are these Black businesses that you can go and support, since you feel that you can't go over here. Because I don't ever want to hear anybody say, well, there's nothing out there, I got to, because why would I give something to somebody who's going to oppress me? So I do that, and I also have Substack. I have a show called The Tea with April on Thursdays. Follow, please. And I try to put Black folks on Black Press USA. I make sure Black voices are highlighted. That's what I do personally and professionally.
Well, just let me say on the Target issue, I know it's on everybody's mind. From a movement perspective, I tell labor leaders all the time, don't call a strike if you don't know how you're going to end it.
Ooh.
Don't call a boycott unless you know how you're going to end it. And so I think what we should be doing is figuring out how to make Target a better company, how to invest, and how can Target invest back in our communities.
Right.
See, this, we're not looking for charity, we're looking for a business transaction. And I think sometimes we underestimate what we can do as a people in the business world. You know, before Dr. King was killed, this is exactly where he was headed, the economics. And of all of our organizations, National Urban League seems to have this thrust on economic development, which I think is very, very important. You know, raising up entrepreneurs in our community. I mean, this young lady here is an entrepreneur par excellence. You know, comes from a whole movement family in North Carolina. But so I'm just saying that sometimes, you know, I don't want to leave this panel just in a crisis mode.
Right.
I want to leave this panel and say, what can we do to move through the crisis, learn from it, and prepare to excel? I'm not into struggling to struggle. I want to struggle to win.
That's right. Felicia, I'd love for you to talk about the platform.
I just wanted to say one quick point to your question. I've influenced and created through platforms a lot of change, right? So one example is with the Grammys and their big moments that you'll see on the Grammy stage, me now on the board, that had Little Baby and Tamika D. Mallory, for example, during the racial justice reckoning, right? So there are things like that that are happening. But what I'm learning in this journey, Dr. Ben of 30 years, is sometimes the work is quiet. Right? And my vision for us is to build our version of a digital underground railroad. Because so often we are the first and we make these lists. We sit on these panels, we walk these red carpets. You know, it's the Grammys and it's all these things that I've been very blessed to be a part of activating in service of us. But where I'm learning the real power, the real influence is when you're quietly in those rooms and we're putting the right people in those rooms who are pushing and pulling the levers in our direction, and it's happening, and sometimes you don't even know why and where it's coming from. And so my vision for us is that not only are we using our public platforms, right, to drive change, but we're creating pathways that are quieter and more underground, because I think that's when the real strategy and the acceleration of the movement is going to happen. And so I just share that because I think before, and especially for our young professionals in the room, right, resist the temptation to do it for the clout.
Yeah.
Right? To do it for the likes, to do it for the impressions. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But have a dual strategy, because sometimes the real clout, the real power, the influence that can be sustained, to your point, is like those quiet platforms and movements that you build that end up unlocking opportunity for millions instead of just the few people that maybe you have on your existing platform.
And that's a really key point. It's actually part of the point that I make in my book about disruption. Some of the most disruptive tactics are very quiet. A lot of times we get distracted or we get attracted to the person with the largest platform, the largest voice in the room, and they actually may not be the one that's leading us over to the promised land, right? We saw what happened when the protests happened in April and folks were like, well, where are all the black people? They didn't think we were organizing. We are organizing, but we also understand the harm that comes with us being physically in the streets in this moment. And so this point that Valicia is making is actually very imperative, as we are understanding that we have to leverage media, but how are we also doing this behind the scenes to gain real power?
I mean, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But if you think about power and social media as a for instance, you know, we always, all of us are attempting to get these huge numbers. You know when you know you're most powerful? When you're not even on social media.
That's right, that's right, that's right.
Think about Denzel Washington.
That part.
Denzel Washington not on social media because he doesn't have to be.
That's right.
So I just simply say that's real power.
I mean, especially in a world that is being built on artificial intelligence, right? Your currency is going to be your authenticity and your craft. Go ahead, Rachel, and then I'll get the last 3 questions. I don't know, Rachel, you want to jump in on that?
Oh, no.
Oh, I thought you put your microphone up. Okay. We have 3 more questions, and I got like 15 minutes, so go ahead.
Yes,
sister.
in the era where Gil Scott said the revolution will not be televised, it's going to be posted. So strategy is important. We have people who deal with data. When I'm asking this question, I'm looking around seeing how many millennials and Gen Zs are in the room. Let's give them a strategy. They communicate. They're not watching CNN. They're not watching CBS. So we need to come up utilizing their power and their influence. How important is it to take back to these 92 affiliates and their young people and saying, let's get in a room, let's be quiet, and let's come up with a strategy. Been in TV 30 years, anchor, assignment editor, and the whole 9. I know there's power in this room, but it's going to come from our young people. Tell us how we can empower the gentleman here. How can we empower?
I was going to come to you anyway.
How can we empower these young people? Let's get behind the closed door. Come up with a strategy.
I think part of the reason that because I'm 36 years old, and I feel like I thank you very much. But you know, when I'm finding myself as the youngest all the time, Valencia also like always the youngest in these spaces. And what I've been fortunate, and I think what you should take back to all the affiliates is that put them at the front of the table. Yeah. I think part of the and well, they must be young.
They felt that.
They're right. They're in their 30s. Because I think so often people dismiss young people.
Yes.
I'll never forget. I was the president of the National Student Athlete Advisory Committee for the NCAA when I was in college, and I was in this meeting I was the only student athlete representative, and everyone else was like presidents and chancellors of universities. And we were talking about them having and creating these Big Ten TV networks at the time, and I was giving our perspective, which was literally my job being there. And someone said, I got socks older than you. Ooh. And I have heard that version of that a lot, right? Oh, when, I've been doing this so long, great. Everything still seems messed up, right? So maybe all the answers aren't coming from, and not to disrespect our elders, to be very clear. To never disrespect our elders.
Why are you touching me?
You were so close, that's why. You were close, that's why. But there, you can work in concert, right? Yeah. I think the Reverend said, learn from the past. We don't have to repeat the past. Mm-hmm. The older people in my family do not understand TikTok, right? Hell, I barely understand it. Now my 25-year-old sibling does understand TikTok. And so if I'm thinking about a strategy, right, why would I not go to them for their expertise? But don't just go to them for the things that young people like, right? I think that's part of the issue is like we bring young people in. It's like, well, tell us about that TikTok kid. And for them, they're like, well, I also have opinions on the criminal justice conversation we just had. I also have ideas about the healthcare that you were just talking about, right? Because at the end of the day, they're going to inherit this messed up world that we currently have. And so they need to be a part of creating the solutions.
Eugene, I just want to say this, though, very quickly. I think that people have to understand that's twofold because people dismiss old people.
Correct, 100%.
But,
100%.
I'm not getting all, because I'm old and gray now, but I will say this. I think that we all have to understand that there's sweet spots in different generations. And there's sweet spots. I had an uncle with Down syndrome. And people would assume that he couldn't teach you. I learned so much from him just watching him be a good human being. And so I say to all of us, we really need to stop dismissing each other.
Yeah, that part.
And I think that's the bigger thing.
Yeah.
Because as I grow older, I ain't the first phone call anymore to have this job or that. Your ego has to allow you to do that. And I hear, let the young people walk in it. Well, some of y'all. But some of y'all need to go sit down because you ain't old enough to understand what's going on. Because when I was 30, 35, I thought, y'all don't know. And they knew. I didn't know. And so I think we have to find each other's sweet spots.
But let me say this, and I agree. I think there's a space for everything. I think there's a space for the OGs, for the history. Always. I mean, we have to learn from a Dr. Chavis who all of those who were the lieutenants, they're now gone. Dr. Chavis said he was the youngest person with Dr. King. We don't have that connection. We need to learn and listen. And I think there's a space for young people. Nothing but Capitol Hill and the White House, it's filled with young people. They're the ones making the decisions. But I'm gonna say this to you young people, and I love you to death because I have a 23-year-old and a 17-year-old. They taught me TikTok and all that stuff, okay? But I want you to understand you don't know it all either. Because sometimes y'all walk in the room, and I'm not saying this is everyone, but I've seen this, and I want us to humble ourselves on each side. Sometimes we have young people who've walked in the room, I got this, I'm on the glow up. I know what I'm doing, and you fall on your face. Understand that you can be humble and ask for help. Yes, you come in because we brought you in because you have potential. You're not all the way there. Be teachable. Be teachable. And for us older folks, I'm not an OG yet, but I'm on the way. Eugene. Anyway.
You want to be an OG so bad with Dr.
No, I don't. I'm good where I am. But no, what I'm saying is for us OGs, we have to make it also comfortable for our young people. Yeah. So I think there's a fair shake on both sides.
Can I give one example?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a funny, fast one. So the night that Mike Brown was murdered, you all remember?
Yes.
I mean, it was just terrible for all of us. Couldn't sleep. And I called Dr. Ben at 3 o'clock in the morning because we have that kind of relationship. And I said, Doc, I'm out here in the streets because I'm in the middle of the generation, by the way, right? So I'm in my 40s. And
you don't have to tell. Pretty good.
It's fine. Solidarity. And so I called Dr. Ben at 3 a.m. and I said, Dr. Ben, I'm out here in the streets. I'm in the Bronx. I'm walking down to Harlem. And Dr. Ben said, go home. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you have to have the energy, right, to really do this work.
That's right.
And where are you most useful, V? Are you most useful on the streets, on the front lines, when you have young people younger than you who have the energy to do that? Or should you go back tomorrow and go get the money?
Yeah.
And I went back and got the money. And so to your point around wisdom and knowing your lane, it's not only just about age, it's knowing what you're great at too.
Well, that's
right.
Yeah, because we can't be everything. I had a mentor say that to me. There was a protest and I'm working on the media side and I was like, well, are we gonna go out to the march? She said, that's not your place. Because who is going to answer the call when the journalists are calling and they need to know the information? Or who's going to connect all the leaders that need to get all these pieces? That piece is so important. And I also want to impart on young people, this conversation we're having is an intergenerational conversation. And modeling that in public is needed now more than ever because what Dr. Ben said, I don't know if you all are hearing that, but he was this age we're talking about when he started this work. Right? So there's wisdom to gain about how we move forward. And the other piece, the theme that I'm hearing, and this is something that I had to learn, we can't be everywhere. If you're good at TikTok, stay good at TikTok. If you are good at Instagram, stay good at Instagram. If you're good at if you're not good at any of those, but you're good in that C-suite that for whatever reason, your boss brings you into the meeting with their colleagues, be good right there. Do not try to be everything, because then we are distracted and we're worn out and we're exhausted. Rachel, I'm going to let you in.
Yeah, I was just going to say to V's point about, Dr. Ben's amazing counsel is the reason OGs have sustained is because we understand that it's a test of endurance. Mm-hmm. And we are in this for the long haul. It is going to really, really take endurance to be able to weather the storm that is ahead. And it's literally just starting. And, to Alencia's point, I have been sort of the narrative shaper and the curator to many moments in the civil rights and social justice movement. In 1997 and 1998, whether it was Amadou Diallo, whether it was Abner Louima in New York, went on to Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown, in every single case, I have been helping to amplify the message around that. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, Rev Al, with whom I've worked for 27 years, I want to go get arrested. Not so fast, Shotgun Shorty. You need to put out the press release. And so again, it's important to understand your lane and accept your lane. And finally, to the next generation leadership. We're in a handheld moment where everyone wants instant gratification, instant this, instant that. But every single person on this panel, we work hard. You gotta do the work. You can't just appear on TikTok and then that's that. You have to go home and do the work.
My brother, thank you for your patience.
You hear me?
Yep.
Roger Fairfax. My wife and I are the project managers, the local project managers for this conference here in Cleveland. Welcome to Cleveland.
Thank you.
But in a former life, I'm an OG. I was with the Pittsburgh League as vice president, and then I went to work for Sheridan Broadcasting Network.
Yes, I used to work there.
Yes. And my first assignment, and this is a story that's never been told, was to fly to Washington and to meet with David Gergen at the White House, because Bob Ellison was the White House correspondent for Sheridan, but he did not have press pool credentials. Mm-hmm. They would not give them to him because you know why. And so my assignment was to convince David Gergen to convince the president to let Bob into the press pool, which happened. It wasn't easy.
Right.
But that hard-fought victory led to April and Eugene.
Amen.
I told Eugene this story this morning walking over here. But would you please speak to the dangers that we face for those that don't understand what it took to get you there, what dangers we faced currently as we see all of this being rolled back?
So wait a minute. I'm so glad that you said that. I'm sorry that you talked to Eugene and not to me, because I need to know this, because I worked for Sheridan, and I'm the one who replaced Bob Ellison.
Correct. I remember.
And Bob Ellison was there for like 17 years.
Can you explain who some
Bob
of these
Ellison.
are?
Okay, so Sheridan Broadcasting, American Urban Radio Networks, was at the time the only African-American organization to have a space in the White House. It was Bob Ellison. There was like Charlotte Church or something. They had it for decades, right? And they still have it. But the problem is, Bob, they got him in the pool. The pool is where you are in the face of the president every day. It's a small contingent of the broader correspondence groups, and every space does not allow for everyone, like the Oval Office, the Roosevelt Room or something, they have a pool. Now, Bob he wound up being selected as president at the time, because at that time they thought that he was worthy of being president, but he still had a seat in the back of the room, which was crazy. I'm the one who moved us up, right? Mm-hmm. And now in this pool thing, this is my contention with my dear, I love him, but I understand. I am a dean of the White House Press Corps, the longest serving Black person in the history of that place. Woo! But I can't get in the pool.
My God.
I can't, and I'm gonna let Eugene speak to this. And actually, it's strategic. I'm glad I'm not, because I don't need to see President Trump again. I've been fighting with Eugene in the Correspondents Association. I have been there I taught the people who were there that took my spaces to be in the pool, and I can't get a pool. Because what happens is, when you go to new organizations, you have to start all over again. Mm-hmm. But my thing is, I'm like, what's her name, Helen Thomas. She was a dean of the press corps, and she got to keep her seat. Yep. April didn't keep her seat. April didn't, and he had, and I'm not blaming it on Eugene, but he had to answer to everybody, and but that he brought it up. So, but there's always a fight.
Yeah.
But we are not giving up. I'm here now. This is my third network in 28 years, Black Press USA. We are in the room, and even if we're not in the room, aren't we breaking news? We are breaking, Dr. Chavez, we breaking news. Because that's what April Ryan does. She works hard for Black press and Black people.
That's right.
You know, so Eugene, speak to it. But thank you for that story. It's not easy. When you see us on these TV shows, when you see us in the room, when you see us doing videos from the Oval Office or outside, you don't know what it takes to get there. You don't know the struggle because our white colleagues think that what are you doing here? I mean, just the other day when, what's her name, Caroline Levitt told Black reporter Jasmine Wright, again, who used to work for CNN and now works for Notice, standing up on the other side of the room, told her that was a stupid question about the King's Day. You know, does the president allow for, would he have peaceful protest? She said that was a stupid question. Now, before the briefing, and I don't know if Dr. Chavis knows this, before the briefing, I was attacked because someone said, I'm not even gonna mention his name, and it made news. Someone said, yeah, he just came up talking to the people he thought were like-minded like him, Trump supporters. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you put my name in your mouth wrongly, there's a problem. He said, yeah, I used to, and I had my mask on, so you didn't know. I was looking young and fresh, not like an OG. I had my mask on. So Rachel, he said, he saddled up to the reporter saying, yes, I didn't like the first administration because I couldn't get a question in. You know, that Jim Acosta from CNN, and you know that urban radio news girl. He was like this to me. I said, wait a minute. He said, you got your mask on. I said, yeah, because of your foul breath. The Lord gave me a quick retort. And he said, but long story short, and it made news. Didn't it make news? It made news. I was like, oh God.
That's why April, look, your presence alone.
That's what I'm saying. My presence alone distracts. I was told that when I come on campus, a lot of the White House folks say, April Ryan's here, because they don't know what I'm gonna ask.
That's right.
They don't know, because they're not always ready to address the issues that impact us.
That's right.
So when you walk into a room and sit at that table, you better know.
That's right.
I'm sorry. You better know.
I got 6,000. I'm good.
Well,
you better know. But wait a minute. But long story short, the guy never got the question answered. I didn't hold him back. But when you put somebody's name in your mouth, you better know what you're doing. But it takes a lot for us, people to look like us, to do what we do.
That's right. Yeah, and I didn't put this in your bio, the president of the White House Correspondents Association.
But I told it.
As of Tuesday was my last day.
Which is a big deal for a Black man to be in that
position. Black queer man.
A Black queer man to be in that position.
The only other was Bob Ellison. That's right. And so this year at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and that was in 1991. And so this year at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, we gave him a posthumous, because he's no longer with us. And so his family came on stage and got our essentially Lifetime Achievement Award.
Beautiful moment.
For the dinner. I think Rachel spoke really well to kind of the April spoke really well to the issue. Yeah, Rachel, thank you very much. To the issues we deal with personally, and I think, not speaking for the Correspondents Association, I no longer do that. But what we were dealing with over the last 6 months was this White House doing something that impacts you, right? We're impacted a lot by a lot of these things. So when they take the Associated Press out of the pool,
a Black woman got hit with that too,
because they don't like what the Associated Press wanted to make their own editorial decisions. That impacts you all. Now that they took over the handling of the pool, adding different people. Look, the White House Correspondents Association, again, I don't speak for them anymore, but we have never had an issue with adding people into the pool. It's the subtraction that was the issue. And when they started to subtract people, and when they started to create a space and choose their own reporters into the space, that was the issue for us, and that should be the issue for all of you. So when you're talking about the damage done, the damage comes from some of the questions that you might hear when we're at the briefing or when they're in the Oval Office. Those questions that y'all hate and don't like because it feels a little too cozy to the administration, those are often not questions from people like April and I, right? They're from, I don't want to talk about any organizations up here, but from different organizations that sometimes don't have our best benefit. Others. There are others
And
that are.
for instance, when the Ukrainian president was there, it was Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend who was in the Oval Office. He's giving me the mic because he don't want to be because he don't want to be seen.
Well, we are also. I'm getting the red flashing.
Well, real
We
quick,
got
Marjorie
one more
Taylor Greene's
question.
boyfriend was the one who asked the Ukrainian president, "Why aren't you wearing a suit?" So they picked those kind of people to come in versus me and a Eugene
Well,
kind of people.
and that speaks to there's this effort to make us distrust news sources because the only news sources they are speaking to are ones that are slanting towards their benefit versus telling the truth, like the Associated Press and some of the other outlets. Okay, my sister, last question. I know we're over time. Last question, my sister.
My name is Vera Thomas, and I'm from the Canton Greater Stark Urban League. And I'm also an OG. And I love young people. My question is, and it comes back to what you just said, this misinformation, this disinformation, and the fact that we have got to be able to fact check immediately. So my question to each of you is, how do we convince our community to fact check before they just automatically assume that something is correct? I know that Perplexity is one of the AIs that I use that also provides the research and the data for the question that you're asking. So please give our people some strategies for addressing misinformation and disinformation. Thank you.
Thank you. So here's what I'm going to ask. 30 seconds for each of you to answer that question or your final tip and strategy so we can wrap up this panel because I'm getting the red signal.
I think for me, the strategy is to trust but verify, right? As a reporter, that's everything that we're taught. Also, find organizations that are full of actual journalists, right? You can watch I'm also on Instagram looking at all the people who just, popped up and now they have, fun little shows on it. That's absolutely great and that's entertaining. But at the end of the day, when you're thinking about what's decisions you're making in your life, you want people who are looking at the facts, the figures, the data that they are always sending us. You want people who can think critically about these things, who are in the room where these decisions are being made, asking the decision makers those questions, and who, understand what your community, our community, wants and needs and deserves. And I think, finding real sources is important. Don't just take everybody with a microphone and think that they are a journalist and they're deserving of you to put them in the same category as us.
Learn the difference between fact and opinion, number one. Number two, critical thinking is important. The onus is on you. Right. Number three, find those journalists that you trust. Journalists, know who's journalists versus those who offer opinion. The line has been obscured. Black Press USA, I'm writing, it's fact. I'm not editorializing. And on any platform, but when I go on TV, I editorialize.
You analyze.
I analyze, but it's because I've been on a unique perch for 28 years, so I know what's going on, and talking to people like Rachel and Eugene and working together. So you have to do due diligence now. You have to know what's fact versus opinion.
Don't be afraid to sound the alarm. Don't be afraid to push back, and certainly don't be afraid to be a truth teller in the age of disinformation.
Agree. To the young people in the room, you are the influencers, and now corporations are going to start offering you dollars to post sometimes information that is not accurate. And so I'll say, you all are replacing the A-list stars now. They'd rather 100 young people posting than one major star. So because of that, you carry a lot of responsibility. And so the one thing I'll say is, and Lindsay and I went through this in our Obama days, it took me 10 months to get through top secret security clearance at the White House, right? 10 months. And so for any of you, they will be scrubbing your social media now or in the future. So everything you post from this day forward, ask yourself 3 questions. Is it helpful? Is it hurtful? And can I live with this for the rest of my life?
Amen. Amen.
All right.
Yes.
In the beginning was the Word. And the Word
It was good.
was God. The reason I say that is because words matter.
Yes.
Facts matter.
Yep.
Journalists matter. Social media influencers matter. We all have our lane. Several people have asked for strategy. The number one strategy is when you get up in the morning, look in the mirror. We all have to be part of the strategy. It's not what one group is going to do for us, it's what we're going to do for each other.
That's right.
And how we do it together. We are multi-talented, multifaceted people. We have a glory. Listen, our brilliance didn't start in slavery. You know, so I think we underestimate what God has given us. You know, I'm not trying to convert anybody this morning, but if you don't have your hand in God's hand, you don't have a strategy.
I would simply say take your responsibility seriously. You've taken time out of your day to come to these conferences, whether it be this one or others that you may go to. And what happens is we get caught up in the moment. And we clap and we go, yeah, 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 and then we leave. And then you have to ask yourself, did I take what I clapped about in this room and bring it to fruition? And most of the time that answer is no. And so I will simply say, in dire straits and in dire times, you have to step up. You can't look to others to lead the way. We're always looking for somebody, well, what are you doing? That's always my retort. So I would just simply say, take your responsibility seriously.
So, Lindsay, I know you're trying to wrap up. You've been a
can
great
always close us
moderator.
out with the benediction.
No, you've been a great moderator, and I think we need to say something about you.
Oh, thank you.
You're one of the people on the networks that we are so proud of.
Thank you.
Because you stand firm. So thank you for your leadership.
And her book.
And her book. Say your book title.
Y'all,
Turn the
my-
tables.
Thank you. Flip the Tables, the Everyday Disruptor's Guide to Finding Courage and Making Change. It actually is divine and meets the moment right now. And lucky for you all, I'll be in the Authors Pavilion at 10:30 or 11, right across the hall. And it's a bestseller. Thank you. Thank you for that, Dr. Chavis. And I will say this, because we've been talking about journalists versus opinion folks. I'm an opinion folk. I'm going to give facts. But to be honest, I am not, people do look at me sometimes and they're like, oh, well, you're a journalist. I said, I'm not a journalist. I have a very real opinion, and that's to save Black people. And I have a very strong opinion about other people. However, I do bring facts into my commentary. But I want to thank all of you. And I mean it. These are folks who I've looked up to, I've learned from, build with, and thank all of you for being so attentive and being here early this morning after y'all were out late last night, because I saw some of y'all, I was out late too. And so this year, is this mine? I'm doing this? Okay. So this year, give it up for our panelists one more time. And this year, the National Urban League is excited to introduce the brand new Creator Suite, a vibrant, exclusive space designed just for influencers and digital tastemakers. Whether you're capturing content, collaborating with your fellow creators, or just soaking in the energy, this is your space to shine, your time to shine. So please enjoy complimentary headshots, surprise celebrity drop-ins, live podcast recordings, and so much more, including some authors, and the dynamic lounge zones. Come experience what's new, what's next, and what's now. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day. And again, give it up for our panelists. And thank you, Urban League.